Heaven, ring, ring with a harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
In my introduction of Pastor Hill, I omitted to tell you that he is the spouse, he is the husband of Ms. Miranda Hill, liaison. So, all right. I hope you've enjoyed the food. As Dr. Somerville is going to prepare to come here just shortly, I just want to give you just a tad bit. We're going to send out an email with some place cards on the significance of the food. But Black history does not only start at, Black history really starts before slavery. So there's a pre and a post, and so some of this food is from the post of slavery, of the Emancipation Proclamation, because if you read your history, they weren't able to fry chicken pre, but they were able to do it post. And then just the significance I was asked to share just maybe one of the dishes, but does anyone know how the black eyed peas were originated, or why you have them on, many individuals have them on New Year's Eve? Anyone know? Or New Year's Day? Okay, well, in history, I was a Des Moines public grad, so I was not on the outside sitting in when this part was taking place. But I was listening, and it's derived all the way back from General William Sherman, who led a battle in Georgia in about 1864. And during that battle, it was wintertime, and it was the North against the South. And the Southerners that remained after the battle were able to go back out, and they realized that all of their cattle, their crops, and everything had been taken by the North in the bloody battle as they were going to the sea. And at that particular time, what they discovered was there were silos that remained, and in the silos were black-eyed peas. The black-eyed peas were known as a lesser crop. The Northerners used them for livestock feeding, but when the Southerners realized that that's all that they had left, it became a good luck pea, because they celebrated that even though they had everything taken from them, their livestock, all of their crops, they were left with something. And so that's why on New Year's Day, it's ate as a bean for good luck. As far as for slavery goes, the individual slaves that were taking care of the plantation owner's livestock, they were feeding it to his livestock. And so at the end of the day, they figured if it was good enough for Trigger, then it's good enough for us to get a handful, and we'll go back and put it in some hot water, soften it up, put it with rice, and it became a dish. So that's how individuals started, just as oats and things of that nature. The macaroni and cheese, as you know, it's not really a soul dish, but it was in France and the French in the 1800s, and one of our great American pioneers, Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin were having dinner with some individuals, and they loved the way that this dish was prepared. They brought it back to their plantation, asked their head chef in the kitchen to prepare it for them, and thus he started adding the cheeses, 4 cheeses as you do, your stovetop macaroni cheese, things of that nature. So that's a little bit of how those came apart. The post-emancipation, those that were out in the field, they probably didn't eat ham, but those that lived in the big house with the master and prepared his food, they got the better part of the pig. So therefore, that's why we have those. So that's just a little tad bit. I'll send the rest of it out for you to take a look at. But I would like, without further ado, to get to the main headliner. I would just like to say I'm just a commercial before. Dr. Lenola Allen Somerville is coming at this time in her own very special way.
Well, hello, everybody. Hello. Can you hear me in the back? Yes. All right, very good. You know, being the largest school district in a state ain't easy. Ain't easy. Now, I did take English classes, so I should say isn't easy. But with the 32,789 students enrolled and the 5,000 including teachers and staff during this current school year, I'm very pleased with the Des Moines School District's motto. And the motto is think, learn, grow. Think, learn, grow. When I looked at the student demographic enrollment and realized that 20.2% of the students are African Americans, I said, yes. It was even more warming when I looked further on what's on the page, that the African American students, along with other students, would be exposed to diverse cultures. And I go, okay, that sounds good. They would be exposed to rights and obligations of students. And I thought, wow, that's excellent. They would be actively engaged in the community. And I thought, oh, they're not going to just be seated at the desks at all times. And from that point, they are going to be engaged with the languages and the cultures of Iowans, the states in the United States, and the whole world. And I thought, oh, they're going to be acquainted and interactive with me. And that's a privilege when someone is interactive with me. Now you're supposed to laugh over that. With my little 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about stories of courage. Stories of courage through struggles and empowerment. And I'm going to focus it primarily on African American. What do we mean by the courage, and when is courage necessary? Well, courage is necessary, was necessary in the past, it's necessary in the present, and it's going to be most necessary in the future. And even, he talked about food, but even in the life of African Americans, throughout history, their music has been most important. And you did see two people standing as he sang, "Lift Every Voice and Sing." And you will see that if you are in various communities and groups. Today's presentation is about courageous stories and music. I will tell the story in ways that assist you, the listener, to understand the rationale behind it, the joy that was received in the delivery, and the meanings that will carry the performer on through the years. Telling the story of Black history, it's important. And in 1926, Dr. Carter G. Woodson initiated the celebration of Black history, and it was Black History Week. But he initiated it, and that took courage. Well, he didn't live to see today. He really didn't live long enough to hear people saying things like, Black is beautiful. I'm Black and I'm proud. Power to the people. Peace. He would have seen Blacks being portrayed through ancestral and futuristic means. They would wear dashikis, garments with gold geometric designs, kente cloth, thought to come from Africa, cultural hairstyles, afros, naturals, the bush, the cornrows, etc., and Afrocentric jewelry, as well as Afrocentric colors, black, red. This awakening in the 1960s dramatically expanded the consciousness of Black America. In 1976, History Week expanded into a month. So now Black history is celebrated 1 month. But I caution you, the day may come when we will celebrate Black history year round. And that will be a point of arrival. You see, it's because of Black history that you have a segment of society who are proud of their identity, proud of their legacy, proud of their heritage. It is something to be proud of who you are. And it's because of history, people know who they are, know their identity, and that goes far beyond an individual's name. Well, let's see what happened in the early beginning. Unknown to a lot of people, Blacks in the Americas were explorers and indentured servants long before they were slaves. They helped to establish even St. Augustine, Florida, and that was in the 1500s. But if you don't know the history, that point just skips over you. However, more than 6 million slaves were exported to what is this ground, and they were exported via ships. Can you imagine being down in a ship, being exported days, and they were not considered cruises at that time? They were separated by their individual groups. They were considered to be a dumb people. But you need to know they taught each other their language. The dumb people taught each other their language. Now that took bold courage. There are other records, but please note that the experience of the slaves were not all glorious. They really were painful experiences. But then there was the music. The early ancestors always had music. They always knew music. And for most every activity in the individual's life, music came first. Now, the important thing about music, it reflected a lot that even the persons to whom the slaves owed their lives and their existence didn't understand what was happening through the music. And was a woman named Eileen Southern. Eileen Southern was an expert in the historical issue of music. And she did a lot of explorations and development and was responsible for placing the music of Black Americans in the Smithsonian. Well, you need to know that took courage. Music was so very important in the Black culture that it took them to a new world. Now, when they were working for their bosses, of whom they refer to as masters, the masters tended to equate the production level with their behaviors. So when the slaves were singing, the masters would say, production is going to be great today, because they are really, really singing. They began to sing Negro spirituals. You said, well, not then. It was too soon for that. A number of Negro spirituals were developed and composed during the slavery days. They began to think about the days when they would no longer be slaves. Somewhere along the line, a woman by the name of Harriet Tubman came of being. And Harriet Tubman said, we don't have to be slaves. We can be free. Well, slavery was all over. So the question was, well, how will everybody know that we don't have to be a slave, we can be free? Harriet Tubman encouraged, let's go to freedom. Let's go to freedom? Do you know where all of the slaves are? Yes, let's go to freedom. Well, do we just walk away? No. No. And in her mind, she was saying, let's strategize. She didn't use that word, but apparently that's what it meant. Let's strategize? How are we going to do that? They began to sing songs with lyrics that talked about their situation, their problems, and their escape. They used words and they used phrases for their coded meanings. You know, when they got ready to have sessions away from the work field, they would go to places that today we call them our retreat centers. There were no retreat centers at that time. So they said, well, how will we let people know that it's time to go and talk about freedom? They used music. They used music to call attention. And they would, say like, nobody knows the trouble I see. Nobody knows but Jesus. And the wind would take it from one slavery location to another. And people would say, oh, I wonder is Harriet Tubman somewhere near? Or else they would say, over my head, I hear music in the air. Now, if you're a slave, you are not singing that kind of a music. And that was filled with their codes. When they got ready to have secret meetings, they had songs. And then they would sing, meeting tonight, meeting on the old campground. And the muscles would say, whoa, productivity is going to be great, isn't it? They're singing. Or else they would say, steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. I ain't got long to stay here. That means get ready because we're going to be getting out of here. And when it really got time to move, they would sing something about deep river. My home is over Jordan. And the message would just go and move. Now, the person who helped them to escape helped over 300. You said 300? No. But one person out of slavery was one person less than those in slavery. One of their favorite songs, and I said this perhaps 2 weeks ago, one of their favorite songs to talk about mobility and that Harriet Tubman was coming, or some of Harriet Tubman's workers were coming, was Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. I think everybody knows Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And they would sing, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. You're a slave and you're singing that. I looked over Jordan and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. They're talking about the workers that had been utilized and committed to assisting the slaves to get free. But one of the things, and they had different voices and whatever, one of the things that they would sing was always surprising. They would sing, and they were tired and sick, and they would just, oh, if you get there, that's freedom. Before I do, coming for to carry me home. Tell all of my friends I'm a coming to. Isn't that something? That they had that hope that they were going to do it. But these were the dumb people who had that hope and knew how to talk in coded languages. And what are we doing in the 21st century? Where is our hope? How do we know to talk in the diverse language? Maybe it's about a story of Hank Aaron. I remember growing up, I'm an only child, and my daddy had wanted a boy. He loved baseball. And I remember growing up, I knew the names of all the players with the New York Yankees, the New York Giants, and the Brooklyn Dodgers. And he would ask me, all right, who's second base? Who's third base? And I knew, well, Hank Aaron, an athlete, he received the highest level and a medal from the President of the United States. Maybe courage to do that worked. But also, maybe courage worked for other people. People such as Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, who became secretaries of the state. Oh, I can think of somebody else. Let me step back. Does the election of the President of the United States, who was Black America, the reason now to say we've already arrived, we don't have to talk about African American history anymore? No. And I know if he were to walk in here today, he would say, no, not at all. But we say, thank you, America. Well, we bring it up to the present. Remember the statistics I read at the beginning now, and at the district level. I gave at the start. We have help, and we have the future right in this room. Each one of us. Every day, however, there are new challenges and to address, new issues to explore, problems to solve. Problems? Yeah, we got things to do. Things? What things, Lanola? What things? Remember the statistics now. Remember the 20%. Things about negative criticisms regarding the leadership abilities and skills of African Americans. Inequitable treatments as per health, as per safety, and as protection issues. Racial divisions and disparities. Disregard for young African Americans, for the importance of the careers and all of that type of preparation. And just the realization that something must be done. What things, Lanola? The elimination of terrorism, solving social issues, misguided leaderships all over the world, and a power-hungry citizenry. People who need assistance handling their problems. Any other things, Lenola? Yes, teaching. What do you know about teaching? I know a lot about teaching. I'm a Texan. I'm from the South. I'm from Houston, Texas. And there was this black college 30 miles north. And now I've been in Iowa for 43 and a half years. And I have even gone out to the Drake relays, and I've seen students from Prairie View in Texas running in the relays. Oh, I've attended Prairie View. I graduated from Prairie View. I taught at Prairie View. And while teaching at Prairie View, someone mentioned, Lenola, you should go get another degree. Okay. I went to Prairie View, where I was teaching, and got another degree. Later they said, Lenola, you should go get another degree. Oh. One day where? Des Moines, Iowa? Oh, okay. The day came when Lenola, her college sweetheart, who was then her husband, and the 3 daughters moved to Ames, Iowa. When I went back, we went back to visit after 3 months, and people said, now where did you go? And we said, Ames, Iowa. And they go, where? Ames, Iowa. And they would laugh. She's been gone for 2 days, and look how proper she's talking. What things, Lenola? Housing, fiscal concerns, prejudice and hatred, all of the aforementioned. We've got to work toward the future. We've got to do something about the issues that are wrong. And it's more than one ethnic or racial group. We've got to train and teach students worldwide. Train and teach students worldwide. I don't know where, if we have teachers in here or wherever, I don't know where you went to college, where you went to the university. I know the best university in Iowa, 30 miles north. Hey! So what we have to do is to prepare others to know about African American history, but also to prepare African Americans to know about their history. When I was a professor at ISU, I'm retired from there, in teaching African American history and teaching curriculum, it was interesting. My classes had 30 to 45 students a semester, and about 7, no more than 7, were African American students. That's because of the low enrollment. The students learned about African American history. I taught it. What else do we need to do? We need to envision what's needed. So oftentimes we'll just say, "Oh, I'm going to class. What are you going to teach today?" "Oh, I'll get something by the time I get there." We need to envision what's needed with the world today. We need to become knowledgeable and full of wisdom about what's needed. We need to actualize and be good. Be good about the actualization. Keep the great energy. When you see students, when you see their parents, when you see their relatives, when you see people from the ethnic or the racial group, embrace. Be open. Think outside of the box. Do not limit life to what is, but limit it to what could be and what should be. There was a preacher on TV, Dr. Schuler, of the white race. And Dr. Schuler encamped me because he would always say to his congregation, "Don't just sit there, do something." And so I said today, as we hear about African American history, as we learn about it, as we do about it, don't just sit there. Do something. Do something. And I have to end this with two stanzas that I always share. And they are, "Isn't it strange that princes and kings and clowns that caper in sawdust rings and common folk like you, and me are builders of eternity? Oh, to each of us is given a bag of tools, a shapeless mast, and a book of rules. But each of us must make our life is flown, not a stumbling block, but a stepping stone. Remember African American history, but remember it takes all of us to get it known." Thank you for listening.